Alright, how's it going? Well, today I'm doing a different video than I usually do, but as of recent times, probably noticed that I uploaded all kind of videos. Mostly the martial art related videos were on my like short videos, like below 1 minute. And then they have a different format as well. So today I'm telling you, while I'm on the bike going to my work, I have a meeting in a bit, I'm telling you my Kuen story. Right? Excuse me, sometimes it's a bit bumpy, need to stop, need to be careful with the traffic and all that. But I hope you can understand me well. There are not too many noises like from the wind and from the traffic, stuff like that. Alright, here we go. Here comes my Kuen story. I'm not going to explain what Kuen is. If you watch this, you most likely know what Kuen is. But I have to go back a little bit in time. I have to go back to the mid-70s actually. So I was born 1970. My first style of martial art I did was judo. Did that for a couple of years. I've done that about, I don't know, well, off and on, a couple of years. And in 1981 or something like that, I started karate. And also that I didn't do too long. It was about 3 years, something like that. Not really 3 years, a couple of years. But you know, I was young. And at that time, there wasn't anything else than that. Well, then I heard from a friend of my brother's about this Chinese dude who teaches Chinese Kung Fu. Well, at that time, you know, that's all we knew. Kung Fu, Karate, Judo. We, you know, there were magazines, but we were young and we didn't even know there were magazines. And if we didn't have the money to buy them, so we didn't have any education about martial arts styles in terms of Chinese Kung Fu. So Kung Fu was Chinese, that's all we knew. So yeah, so I started Chinese martial arts, and as I started, the teacher, it was a Chinese from Malaysia, and his name was Shi Shun Fok. And he taught a style called KUNG-FU-FILME, which was like a mixed style. It was a mix of Taekwondo and Taekwondo, karate, some Kung Fu shit. I don't mean to say shit, but like some Kung Fu, but like some Southern Kung Fu. So yeah, it was a mix. Some karate, a lot of kicking there, high kicks and all that shit, flying kicks, roundhouse kicks, you know, spin kicks, all that stuff. And you had that traditional Kung Fu in there as well. So it was a mix, and they called it KUNG-FU-FILME. At some point you started to invite wushu coaches, like modern wushu, like, you know, with all the fancy movements and jumps and I mean, again, at this time we were young, and then that was like the first time we see things like that, and and it looked all fancy and flowery and beautiful. So yeah, done that. So we did a mix of everything. Wushu. We did some full contact. It wasn't Sanda at the time, but later on it switched to Sanda because we got first. At some point he got some Sanda coaches from China as well, who still lives here in Germany. Li Yanlong, where he was teaching. For fuck's sake! Mostly more on Wushu, but he was also a Sanda champion in a certain year in the 80s, I think, in China, in the province, in some province, can't remember which province anyway. But yeah, so the teacher there, Shi Shun Fok, he was a businessman, and at 1990 he opened a Chinese restaurant. And yeah, so I did work at this restaurant for him for like 3-4 months. I actually lived in the restaurant over the summer. And one of the cooks who also lived inside this restaurant, his name is Li Wei Xiong. He started to realize, or noticed me doing my moves and all that shit in the evening. And so at some point he did some little sparring with me, and he took me down easily. And I'm 6'1", right? And he was like, well, at that time I was 6'1", but super skinny, super light. Not unlike now. And so yeah, now he took me down with some sweeps and some styles, some techniques, and yeah, and then I asked him, what's that style? And really can't remember if he said Hong Kun. I think he always said Tiger and Crane. He didn't say Hong Kun. You know what I mean? So he started teaching me that in the kitchen, after work. You know, we had dinner when the restaurant closed. We had dinner, and then we started to play around, and then he started to teach me. So I've learned the Tiger and Crane form from him in 1990, and I learned a double knife set using kitchen tools. You know what I mean? So that was my beginning, my journey into Hong Kong. So the things he taught me, I kept practicing. That's all I've learned, actually. You know what I mean? Because after a few months I stopped working there, and then I moved away. But all these years I kept practicing those two forms that he taught me, basics. You know what I mean? And then I moved away, and then for a while I didn't do any martial arts at all. At some point, about 2004, I wanted to go to Hong Kong to learn more about Hong Kong. Actually, there's another Chinese Hungar teacher in Germany, a female called Mei Ling, and I wanted to. Actually, that's a funny story, because where I lived at that time, I was like on the north, and then she and her school, and they lived on the other side in the south. So I hitchhiked. I hitchhiked there. Put my bag, packed my bag, and hitchhiked to Constance with the goal to become a teacher. With the goal to become a student of Wu Mei Ling, to learn Hong Kong. You know what I mean? But so I hitchhiked there, and it took me 2 days to get there. We talk about the early 90s. You could hitchhike at that time. You know what I mean? And it was quite far from where I lived, Wolfsburg. So I hitchhiked to Constance. It took me about 2 days. I remember I got there early in the morning, like, I don't know, 6 o'clock in the morning. So obviously I didn't know where the school is. So I was going into a public telephone booth, and and they got these telephone books in here. So I got the address from there. So if I remember correctly, you know, we talk about early 90s, so this is talk about 30 plus years. No, how long that? Okay, no. 30 plus years ago. And I found this school, and there was a sign outside, a handwritten sign, never forget, says we are on a trip to China. How fucked up was that? So yeah, so I hitchhiked back. Pause this. So I hitchhiked back to Wolfsburg, and then there was that, the dream. Then I moved again, I moved to Hanover. Lived there a couple of years, worked, did this, did that, survived, you know what I mean? Fucked around a bit. Until I remembered what I really want to do. I want to learn that style. So I started to research, watch hundreds of instructional videos, and at some point I got, because I love Kung Fu movies from Hong Kong, right? And I forgot how, but I think through Li Yanlong, some Bay Logan, he knew Li Yanlong, and that's how I got in touch with him. Because Bay Logan is a producer, martial artist, filmmaker, author in Hong Kong, living in Hong Kong, from England. And well, he got me in touch with another Englishman in Hong Kong who accepted me as a student. So I studied under him for a couple of years. Didn't go all perfectly well, but this is another story not to be told. But, yeah, that's done, that's buried. Anyway, and living in Hong Kong for a couple of years, I met my now wife. She's from the Philippines. And then after we've lived in the Philippines for a couple of years, and during that time I met my now Sifu Wang Chongman. 2009 we returned from Asia to Germany, and I started teaching Kung Fu here. I also taught in the Philippines, in Chinatown for a while, and yeah, so that's basically my Hong Kong story. And until now, 2025, I follow Wang Chongman, who's my Sifu. It's really shortened now and not in all detail, but I'm arrived at my destination, so hope it's a bit interesting. Alright, have a good one, bye bye.